about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro. Coming to you today from the Wakeley Bioretention System in Brisbane, which is about 10 years old, and it's a big regional bioretention system that Brisbane City Council built. Today we are going to talk about how this system has been changing over time, and something that I noticed today while I happened to be dropping by to take a look. If you're interested in the system, we have seen it a few times before on Ideanthro. Episode 216, when we talked about filter media research, this is one of the sites. And also as far back as episode 28, Acacia in Bioretention Systems, where I talked about all the acacias that have come up here from seed as pioneer species and are starting to fill in the system. And it's on that topic that I'd like to riff today, like to explore a little bit more today. So I have this fascination with how these older bioretention systems are changing and developing into ecosystems. Like when they get a solid foundation, how they then go about actually taking on a life of their own and changing. And initially I'd seen lots of acacias popping up around the edge of this bioretention system, and that's still certainly happening. But what I noticed today was a species that's suddenly like in here in really big numbers. In fact, you can see it over my shoulder just there. That tree species, whoa, trying to get the angles right there with my finger. Never done that before. That tree species there that's popped up, I don't know what it is, but there's a fair bit of it in there. There's one more mature one directly straight behind me, and then we've got these slightly younger ones over my left shoulder there. And what I noticed was this: it's only in this one cell, because being a big regional system, this bioretention basin is split out into 3 separate cells. You've got closest to where you park, closest to the road, there's a saturated zone cell, and then we come up through this middle cell behind me and another cell just out of shot there. The middle cell and the one just out of shot there are normal. They're not saturated zone, they're just normal, freely draining bioretention systems. And so previously what I've seen is acacias popping up in all 3 of them. But what's suddenly happened here is the density of species that have popped up of their own accord in this middle cell is far, far, far higher than either of the 2 other cells. And it got me interested as to why. And one of the answers could be random fluke chance. We don't have a massive sample size here, so we can't draw massive conclusions. Random fluke chance is an answer. But there's a couple of others that spring to mind here. The first one that I thought about is that the 2 far end cells have over time lost a lot of their vegetation. The cell furthest from where you park, it lost a lot of its vegetation. Actually, something we should say here first is all these cells, so they're about 950 square meters each. The front third to a half of each of them was originally planted with trees in all of them, and the trees are still there. There have been some lost, some species didn't do so well, others did better, some were cut down. But by and large, in all 3 cells, there's trees at the front end, and then the back end, nearest to the outlet of each system, was planted with ground covers. And there were different species of ground covers put in each one to test what would do better. So the cell furthest from where you park, furthest from Tilly Road, is this cell here, and it lost a lot of its ground cover species pretty early on. I'm not sure why in that case. And so it's one of the ones that's got less pioneers coming up in it, although it definitely has some, but they appear to all be acacias, and it looks pretty dry in there. You go down to the cell, the saturated zone cell closest to the inlet, and it had an okay understory for quite a long period of time. Then it suddenly disappeared. I believe it was from an accidental inappropriate maintenance event, shall we say. But now it doesn't really have much in the way of understory, and it's got very little of the way of these pioneers coming up. But then the middle cell has kept its understory over time, partly, I think, because it was planted with lomandras and they're tough as nails. So it's got a really dense understory, and it's now got the most pioneers. So one possibility that occurred to me is, well, okay, when we want pioneers coming up, maybe having a dense understory helps, because maybe that slows velocity so the seeds won't wash away. Maybe that suppresses weeds so there's less competition from really vigorous weedy species. Maybe the shade makes for more hospitable circumstances on the ground. Maybe the leaf drop makes for more hospitable circumstances on the ground for the seeds to shoot and make their way up. Maybe it's just more like nature, where the plants would be coming up with an understory anyway. Because note, the acacias are real pioneers, so they should be able to come up anywhere. But this species behind me, I'm not really sure what it is. It's possible that it's something that's not typically a pioneer and has enjoyed coming up through that dense understory. So this is one option that maybe if we want to encourage pioneers to come up and encourage these systems to turn into ecosystems, we need to make sure that we do leave some sort of an understory. Just having a barren system, maybe we'll get some acacias in it, but isn't as good. Option number 2 here is that for whatever reason, the seeds of that plant have only got into that system. I did mention there is right behind me, a much more mature plant, and then we've got these younger ones here. It's entirely possible that just like one or just a couple of random seeds at some point came down through the stormwater from the catchment, got into this system, germinated that one tree, and that it's subsequently flowered and dropped more seeds in, and these are the babies of that tree. And really the only difference here is a fluke chance that the seeds got into this middle system and not that one. Or that the few seeds that did come down germinated in this system and not that one. That's a possibility. Another possibility here, my third and final one, is that this is like edge effects going on here. Because the reality is you look at either of the two end systems here and they look a fair bit drier and a bit more barren, whereas the middle system has stayed much lusher and greener over time. And maybe that's because the plants that were in there were more robust, so they survived, so it's got its own little ecosystem, something. But it could just be a simple case of edge effects, where because the middle system is the middle system, it is buffered and given a little bit of a microclimate by the systems out to the side, to either side of it. So the systems out to the side may get more sun, might get a bit more heat, might get dried out more by wind, whereas the middle system might be a little denser, cooler, moister, and it's just been in a better environment for plants to grow, and therefore it's a better environment for pioneers or any tree for that matter to come up and get up and establish a canopy. I do not know why, but it will be interesting to see what happens here over time, whether this pattern continues. One final thought to finish off this episode. I do not know what this species of tree is behind me. In fact, it's entirely possible that it's not native. I don't think it is, but it's entirely possible that it's not native, which would make this episode humorous and somewhat sad. But I'm going to finish this episode by showing a few clips of that tree. I can't get close enough to get any great shots, but hopefully the zoom on this camera will do the trick. If you know what it is, if you have any guesses of what it is that I might be able to then come back and ID it properly myself using a book for the like, by all means let me know. I want to know what this tree is. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts. I will see you next time. Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro, improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.